Hey everyone, welcome back to Bros and Shows. I am your host, Josiah, aka Mauler67, and with me, as always, you know I got my buddy, I got my pal, I got my brother Austin. Austin, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good myself. I can't really complain. Another long day at work, pretty good, and probably when this comes out to people out on either both the podcast stream or where I'm going to say, I have been uploading the videos to YouTube. I have like 8 of them already uploaded. They just, because there are podcasts, they are 45 to an hour long episodes, maybe sometimes longer. They just take a long time to process. And so I've just been uploading them, like putting them out there. And then just kind of like sitting there being like, all right, I guess I now wait for processing to be done. And I was uploading the episode of, what was it? I think I still have it open. I have that open? No, I do not. Okay, I closed it.
Let's see if I can guess.
It was
Breaking.
The Ring of Power. I was uploading the Ring of Power.
Wow.
Unfortunately, well, here's the thing. I don't have all those episodes like predate us.
Oh.
I don't have all those anymore because they are way far in the past, and Twitch has already removed them. I started downloading all the episodes I could a while ago, last year, but unfortunately, it's just
Oh, I can help you.
Twitch just destroys.
I can help you. I can rip them from Spotify. Like I can rip the audio from Spotify.
But well, that's what I'm saying. Like I can do the IO, and honestly, at that point, I'm like, I'll just direct them back to the podcast.
Yeah.
Like why upload it to YouTube?
That's true.
So instead, I'm just like, from now on, they're going to go on YouTube. I'm going to start uploading them on YouTube. And I'm going to do as many as I can every so often, just to get like the playlist going and get the episodes in there. Starting with Ring of Power, because that's the farthest one I have back, which was what, August, maybe a year or two. Like it was like a good like 4 or 5 months ago, I would say. So I have like multiple episodes good to go. Been making the thumbnails. That's why I asked you for the pictures, so we can start adding those, which we may need more emotions than just 3, because sometimes it's like, well, it ain't really happy, or nor is it really like that. It's more like confused and like, what the heck's going on? You can tell I'm getting close to uploading Wilfred for those remarks. But yeah, like those will be done. Put them up there, so if people will say like, oh, I won't watch it but I can't do it, it's like, you can see it on Twitch or you can see it on YouTube. Here's the YouTube page, and that has all of our compendium up to what we have. If it's any farther back there, you unfortunately don't have to listen to audio only, which who cares? But yeah, that's what I was doing. Feel pretty good about the amount of episodes I got. There is, oddly enough, one episode that got copyrighted, but not. It's not like copyrighted to the point where they're like, oh, we want all the money with this. We don't have any money on it because, you know, we're super small. But it's not even the trailer. It's saying that it's a trailer for something called Together. And the funny thing is that it was the Ring of Power trailer. And so I'm like, Together? Ring of Power? Like, why are they thinking it's like, oh, the trailer is in this segment? And it's only when Jordan's talking, because Jordan was on our episode of that episode.
Ring of Power, yeah.
And I was sitting there and I'm like, is it mishearing Jordan thinking that it's the trailer? This makes no sense. I don't know what's going on here. So I was like debating on disputing it, but the truth is that it's not affecting anything. So I'm like, who cares? Like, let them have just 2 random kids' episode where it's just like, our trailer's in that. There are trailers in it, but they're off in the top left and they're not the focus. They're just kind of playing so people know what we're talking about. So I don't know. It was a funny thing that when it happened, I was like, okay, fair enough. But how about you, Austin? How's your day been? How's your week? How's your month? How's your year?
It's been pretty busy. Most of the time, it's been super busy. I just been going to school, working, finishing up moving pretty much, getting ready for Chloe to, get her room ready and stuff. Like we have a crib now in here, and, we got like a nice little Disney, it was like a Disney sign that someone made for us.
Of course it's Disney.
But everyone, this will be funny. There is one thing in Chloe's room that I demanded to be in Chloe's room, and it is funny. Here, I'll have to do this. Change video background. There we go. Okay. All right. So you guys probably know this if you've listened to our podcast before, and I'm going to show you this, but there is one thing that I told her that she needs to have in this room.
Oh no.
If you can kind of see this, well, the light's kind of weird. There we go, a little bit better.
Yeah.
It's pretty much Mahler himself, but as a magic card. So it's in Chloe's room. So you'll be watching over her.
Anytime I do a video on TikTok in my room, one of the top comments is always, "Is that Magic the Gathering poster on your wall?" And I'm like, it is, but it's more than that. It's a picture of me over pose of Hans Eriksson.
It's a shower curtain.
It was supposed to be a shower curtain. Unfortunately, it was a single entry, and we have a full-on tub. Yeah. So it just didn't work. So instead, I use it as like a giant wall banner, and it works. It's there.
It's fun. Yeah, it's great. I told my buddies this weekend about that because they were asking me about that, and I was like, "Didn't you send him a shower curtain?" I was like, "Yeah, it was too small for his shower." So like, they're like, "What do you do with it?" I was like, "He actually hung it up by his bed," and like my buddy Andrew was like, "I love that your brother is okay with the part of the meme that we do," and I'm like, "No, he enjoys it." So like, yeah, I like how he gives into it. So yeah, it's been pretty cool. So like we've been, getting everything ready for Chloe. Our washer and dryer is down right now. We have a guy coming out tomorrow to look at it. Yeah, big oof. We just moved in and things have gone crazy.
I had that issue a couple months ago. Whenever our down in our basement, it started backing up, and it turns out that one of the pipes collapsed because they were old.
Yeah, that's right. You were telling me.
Cast iron pipes. And so they had to sit there and redo the whole pipe system. We were waiting for at least 2 or 3 weeks before it got repaired. Now we're able to use it again. So it's like, thank goodness I don't have to go and spend like $10 every time I need to clean it.
Yeah.
So
I feel that kind of rough. Yeah, I had that happen. And then I have to get my front brakes on my car right now because they're I'm starting to smell like brakes. So I'm like, yeah, that's a brake problem. So my buddy's going to help me with that. But once everything happens, it all happens at once, especially since we moved in. We got a new pet, which is kind of cool. You'll have to meet him when you come down this weekend.
A new pet, like an actual pet,
or kind of
a toy.
A toy in a way.
Is it like a Roomba? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, you're one of those people.
I've already got a name for it, so it's actually pretty funny. I named it Rigby. So Rigby goes around and cleans up all the messes, even though the real Rigby in in a regular show would not clean anything because he's lazy. But he's small, cute, and he just runs around. So I called him Rigby. We actually started today getting him to map out the house. He actually goes on carpet, and he also mops for us too. It was a really good sale on Amazon. I only spent
well. I didn't know.
Yeah, mops. Yeah, it has a water tank that you fill up with water and then a substance, and that has a wet dry pad, and then it's like a Swiffer almost.
Oh, okay. So it's more like the Swiffer. Okay.
Yeah. So, but it still mops.
You think it's great. You think it's great until one time, Ralph takes a dump, and you don't know. Because he was really frustrated or whatnot, or you weren't home, and then that Roomba's like, "Oh, there's something on the floor, gotta clean it," and then it picks up and it can't quite get in there, and so it just smears it around the house. It's a thing. Look it up. Don't do it if you have low stomach tolerance.
No, it's fine. If he can't pick up anything, he actually shuts down. Because if he got on some papers.
Here's the thing, I do too, man. If I can't do something, I shut down.
He's just I end my life. I'm giving up. Roombas are really bad at giving up.
What is my purpose, Master? Is this what my purpose is? Yes. Oh God.
Yeah, see, no, I referenced that tonight when Ralph was like being scared of rugby or wow. Okay. Rigby. Wow. Man, my head is just been foggy lately. So Rigby actually was like slamming against the door because there's a bumper, so it needs to like map out stuff, so it will slam up against things, and then it will it has like a shock absorber on it, so it just bumps really quick, like a small bump, and then it moves. Ralph was like freaking out, and I was like, hey, he's our new pet, you need to treat him with respect. And then like Ralph looked at me and I was like, but I love you more. And I was like, all he does is he just gets butter. And I forgot that no one's gonna get that reference. I just referenced something for myself. No one got it. So. No
one would get it. Yeah.
Yeah. My wife was there.
The greatest insult and the greatest frustration of our time.
Yeah. Really. But yeah, it's been pretty cool. Like we're just trying to get everything ready, and things are going crazy. And then Easter's coming up, and like I got dropped the ball like a couple days ago, where we're like, hey, we're gonna do Easter, and I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point. Here we should have done this. I actually dropped the ball on that because like I was supposed to like
you
ask
messaged me last week like Sunday or something. You messaged me on like Sunday or sometime. You're like, hey, we're doing Easter this weekend. Is that cool with you? If not, we could do it the week after. And I was like, my brother in Christ, how dare you? No, this weekend would have to be good. Because here's the thing, right? This weekend's Vampire, which I can't do now because I'm going to go back, but they have a online game happening, which I'm just going to tell everyone like, hey, I can't do it because of Easter, so I'm going to proxy out my character for that game and just play via Discord whenever I go home. The other thing is that I've been doing Warhammer a lot and buying stuff a lot. And I have to put it together, and there's an event going on at the Warhammer store, and they're like, hey, when you come back, bring your stuff, and you can learn some things and mark some points and get some free stuff. And I was like, all right, cool, let's go on the 15th, that will be good. So that's what we're doing. And so I'm like, well, if I don't do this week and instead do next week, I can't go to that stuff. I could go this week. So it was like all that stuff, like a lot of talking, figuring it out.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest thing that I have to figure out and go. All right, you have to go and you're not muted, Austin.
Oh, hold up.
Austin has been called by his wife for something, so he's going to talk. Side note: this is done live on Twitch, so like, what can you do? That's just how it works. But since Austin is here, okay, he is going to have to go.
Yeah, my wife is having a bloody nose right now, so I just need to put stuff up there, and then we'll go to go. Yeah, I'll be right.
Yeah, no, my cat's just freaking out there too. All right, well, since Austin's gone, I'm going to go ahead and lead us into the actual talk and the discussionary part of what we ended up watching this week. This week, we ended up watching Disenchantment, which is a show that my brother Austin is very excited for because, well, one, he's the one who told me to watch it. Two, this is by Matt Groening or Matt Grain. Not really sure which one you pronounce it as. I know it's different than what it seems. All right, my thing just keeps opening up and it's freaking me out. But basically, it is a medieval version of, gosh, what do you want to call it? Like, Futurama, The Simpsons. It's a Matt Groening animation. When you watch it, you get hardcore Simpson vibes because of the animation style, how they look, and all that stuff. To be 100% honest, I have watched the first season before this. Whenever it first aired, Austin was so excited. I remember I decided to jump on and watch it because I really wanted another Futurama-like show. Spoiler alert for anyone here about me. I'm a huge fan of Futurama. This did not give me the Futurama flavor I wanted. It gave me Matt Groening like style shows, but not Futurama. Hey, Austin. Austin's back. Everything's good now. How you doing? So I already just dived in to talking about Disenchantment, the show you wanted me to watch. I have explained that I myself have watched the first episode and that I really wanted a Futurama like show. And we can go into details about that in this one.
Yeah.
So Austin, I want to ask you, since this was your show, you're the one who put this forth into the ether for us to watch. You've been excited for me to watch this. You've said multiple times. Austin, how'd you find out about this show, as well as like what made you want me to watch it?
Strictly season one. Actually, well, strictly season one. I actually started watching this because I saw a trailer for it. And it was like From the Mind of Matt Groening, and I was like, hey, it's a show. And then what got me really excited was because he had returning voice actors, Billy West, John DiMaggio, and then I saw Eric Andres was part of it. So I was like, okay, this is gonna be cool. And then the guy that plays Elfo is from Beer Fest. He's one of the German people. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna give this a watch. And then I heard later it was like based off of a D&D session he had, that he wanted to make a creation of like this medieval type weird show. And I found out that like, like the first time watching it, it was good. I like the first season. And I just realized too that like, I think it got better with age actually. After watching it for a second time, I started laughing more, and I got like, the story got a little bit better for me. I think season one is probably, out of all the other seasons, probably the worst season.
Okay.
It's slow. It's kind of like just trying to set up characters, which most shows are like that. Like, a lot of people, like me, I don't really care too much for Breaking Bad season one. I don't think it's the greatest season, but I understand why it's not the greatest season. It's because you're setting up so much information. Like, you're setting up for things that are going to happen. You're setting up characters. You're setting up like, their style, or like, like pretty much just a personality. And that's how I felt with this show. And I still enjoy it. Like, I think there's some really funny points. I think that, I started watching the show because I was a huge Matt Groening fan. I love The Simpsons. I love Futurama. I think those are great shows. And I was like, okay, hopefully this is something that like falls in that category of something that like I'll love. And I feel like it did for me. I feel that it doesn't happen until season 2. Because I remember watching season 1 and being like, it was okay. Hopefully, it was okay. I think season 2 through then, like, I've been super stoked. Every time it comes out, I binge watch it because I think it really picks up and it starts doing storylines from like, different. You get more information and more of these like crazy characters, and the jokes are hilarious in season 2. But season 1 does have some great jokes and some great adventures. But I think, it's like a linear story though. Like, it just the whole first season's like that.
I mention this all the time. My favorite type of shows are episodic shows that I can watch any one episode and feel like it wraps up or it solves itself by the end of the episode. If it has a continuation of another episode or whatever like that, it tends to kind of be like, okay, I have to watch every episode in order to enjoy it as much. This show very much did that. It's very like season based show. By the end of the season, a lot of stuff has changed. A lot of things that have happened in earlier episodes come back up in the later episodes, and you need all the context of it. I mentioned before you came back that I wanted a Futurama show. That's what I meant by Futurama, like episodic based. There was things that carried over between episodes and they would reference other episodes, but you could watch almost 90% of Futurama randomly and not need the context at all for any other episode. But in this show, you very much need the context for each of the different episodes.
It's it's weird because like most Matt Groening stuff is episodic. Like The Simpsons, you could start watching The Simpsons anytime and it doesn't really matter. There might be some characters, like some like relatable characters that happen from the past, like Sideshow Bob and like stuff like that, but like in reality you could watch any episode of The Simpsons and it would just be a good episode. This, on the other hand, you have to watch it through, and I think that's what Matt was trying to do. But I think also too is it could have been the pressure from the streaming service that he was put on with this, because they probably want something like that. There's not a lot of shows that Netflix does where they're like episodic that they create. But also too is I don't think also that Matt Groening was, trying really hard to make it episodic. I think he was just trying to make a world and then go from there. Because I think after this, don't quote me because I haven't watched season 2 in a while, and I haven't watched the other seasons in a while. But I remember liking the other seasons more than I liked season 1. I think that we expect Matt Groening to do an episodic show. So when you see something that's not episodic, you're like, well, this doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like a Matt Groening show. But then, you can still feel and like see the light of Matt Groening a lot, especially with the humor that he does.
I mean, the animation is like,
animation
I
is straight up
legitly,
Simpsons.
Yeah, I can't look at Elfo without thinking that that's just Bart Simpson's D&D character. And here's the thing. What's funny to me, right, about Disenchantment is I feel like they took the best things of the different series and kind of mashed them together and threw it in a medieval thing. I'll say this right off. Like, I enjoy it. I think you're right, because I remember watching this the first time and just being kind of like, I don't know if I really did. And then rewatching this for this, I realized, I liked it a lot more than I realized. I think a lot of the jokes landed a lot more because of the time that has passed. Like, I don't even know when this show came out.
It was right. I think this was in like 2019 when it came out.
2019. Let's scroll down. 4 years ago is when the trailer came. Okay. So 4 years ago, that's 2019 is the trailer came out for it. So I mean, it must be around that time. So I mean, pre-pandemic, not bad. Yeah. There's the constant pandemic cart that is in almost every other episode. So it felt pretty on par with that. But there was just a lot of like commentary about societal stuff that I was like, this feels like it was released a month ago. Yeah, it's talking about current day events, but it's not. It's talking about.
Well, let's bring it up. There's an elephant in the room. The Simpsons predict the future type deal thing. Like people would always bring that up. Disenchantment just predicted the last 4 years.
Yeah, it was not even just that. Like there was like a handful of things. Like I think one of the things they talked about was like societal collapse. Oh, that's it. They were talking about entertainment collapse and everything. It's like, oh, it's just entertainment is just a way of controlling people, so that way it'll be the ultimate downfall of society. Blah blah blah. And like. Meanwhile, you have people in Congress trying to ban TikTok because they see kids are on it for too long, and it's a information risk and all that stuff. Yeah. So it's like, dang, like that's pretty on point, I guess. Like even now, it's still kind of that. And then there was other ones. Like I remember watching it and just being like, this feels like it was current. Like that's weird.
Well, what's weird, what was it? One of the jokes that really stuck with me the second time watching, I laughed really hard out loud, but I was like, it's true. Like, I went like that. And it was the part where Elfo dies and Lucy and them are at his funeral. And the giant girl that he was pretending to date shows up with like the glass ball that he replaced by. And he's like, what happened to your eye? And she's like, well, I don't want to see the truth. The truth is kind of ugly too much. And then Lucy looks at the camera and says, yeah, that's probably why humans are that way.
Yeah.
They don't tell the truth all the time because it's too rough, So like I was like, that's true. Like it's true. A lot of people don't like knowing the truth because it can be kind of hard. So I thought I love this show. Actually, I like it a lot. There's some great characters in this show, and that's what I like about the show a lot. I love the characters. And what's really funny is like one of the characters I really didn't care much about is a star in the next seasons, and I love him. I love him so much. I love the voice actor. It's King Zog. King Zog becomes like one of my favorite characters.
Okay, who's his voice actor? Because I'm pretty sure I know who it is, but
John DiMaggio.
Okay, that's who I thought it was.
Yeah.
The thing is, right, whenever I hear John DiMaggio's voice, I think of his more less gruffier version than that. But
like
I
Bender.
knew that. Yeah, well, not Bender is kind of on the cusp because Bender in early season Futurama was kind of more gruffy, and then he kind of became more realized. I'm thinking of more like Jake the Dog level of talking, because the funny thing is, you know, the laughing horse. That's John DiMaggio.
Yeah, that's John DiMaggio.
And the second you went, like laugh the first time, I went, that's John DiMaggio.
What's really funny is the horse joke does not die there. There is so much horse jokes like in the next couple seasons that you're gonna laugh.
Okay, see, like callbacks like that, solid.
Great.
The one thing I will say about this show is the show does a really good job of constantly calling back to previous or current like happenings in the show. Like you mentioned about the glass eye, that was one of the things that was a callback. The emblem of that, the talisman, that was a callback to an earlier episode. I will also say this though. I know what show I'm going to make you watch next when we have a spurt of a couple weeks. Good. Because 2 of those people are in this show. Their voices in this show. And
is Billy West one of them? If Billy West is one of them,
that's the guy who does Fry, right?
Yes.
No, he's not. No.
Aww.
This will be an interesting thing. Because the first one you'll be able to be like, oh yeah, I know that person. The other one you'll be like, I have no idea who that guy is, because he is not a popular person in the U.S. as much as he is outside of the U.S.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun. It's going to be like I know what we're going to watch, but it may be some time, because after we're done with Disenchantment, we're going to have to do the Mandalorian, and then who knows what else has come out by that point, you know?
Yeah.
So
I know like the first time you watch this, actually you never watched What We Do in the Shadows at that point.
Yeah.
Like we never got around to it. So like you didn't know Matt Berry was in this show.
Matt Berry was in this show.
Yeah, he plays the prince.
Very
son.
short and then reoccurring
little
tidbits.
Short thing.
Yeah. When he stepped out and started talking, I was like, oh, that's Matt Berry. Like, I hear that guy in my dreams sometimes, and those are normally like the best sleep I've ever had.
My favorite line from the first season that he does is when the queen finally comes back, and the queen's like walking through, and she's like, "Ew, I smell manure and cabbage like the old days." And then you just see cabbage? There's cabbage. It's such a good line. Those are the lines that like I laugh at. I'm hilarious. And the thing is like, what's great about the show too is it doesn't hide away from foreshadowing. They like put it in your face, and they're like, "This is going to happen." It's
not
later.
Even like foreshadowing. Like that's the thing. They do foreshadow a lot. They also give you a lot of information in the like obviousness, like in the context, like, hey, this. They also try to do the whole switcheroo thing that I personally, it did not work for me when I first watched it, and then when I rewatched it, I'm like, oh yeah, no, it was super obvious. Like if they thought it was a switcheroo, it wasn't very, very good. And that specifically is about the mom
being
just all that
evil
stuff. Exactly. I will say the brother, I don't even remember what the brother's name is. He actually makes me laugh. I don't know why. Like, he doesn't do anything funny. He's just kind of like a adult, it seems, in the show. But he's
yeah, her stepbrother. Yeah.
And
he actually has a really good storyline in like I think season 2.
Cool.
Which you'll really like.
Yeah, I'm excited. I will legitimately say, I remember whenever I first watched this, it was kind of a slog. I felt like I wasn't really focusing. I didn't really care for the characters all that much. I didn't like Lucy. I hated Elfo, and Bean was just a cliche like super tomboyish girl. Yeah. That I'm just like, if done right, that's fine. But the second time watching, I was like, oh, you know what? The characters are hitting a little better. I think it also helped that once I realized that it was Eric Andre doing the voice of Lucy, I started liking him as an individual character more, just because I liked the voice actor. And that is a serious thing that happens to me.
I've never done anything bad before. I've never done anything good before.
Anytime I know a voice actor to someone, I will instinctively like that person better. Like, I just full on honesty there. That happens all the time with me. That's one of the reasons why whenever I hear a voice actor, I'm like, that's my favorite character now.
I'd have to say that happens in this show with me, and that's Billy West. because Billy West plays the jester, the court jester.
Oh yeah.
From time to time, and like he was like, "Oh no!" And when I heard him say, "Oh no," I was like, "That's Billy West." I know that's Billy West. But and then like some other characters he did like the Barbarian King and like a couple other ones.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah, so like, he's like, yeah, you know. Land Viking King.
Oh, the Land Viking King. Yeah. That actually made me chuckle. He's like, I call this for the Land Vikings. And I'm just like, all right, well, I mean, that's basically what they did. They didn't really call themselves Land Viking. Viking does not mean water, like, or liver. Like, you're a Viking of land. Like, you're just a Viking.
So,
but I'll give him points for that.
There is one thing I wanted to ask you. Did you get the Futurama Easter egg? Did you see it? It is very hard this season.
I had a couple possibilities on where there was Easter eggs at. I chose not to stop it or look back or anything. Like, for instance, one of the things that I knew was probably in there was whenever Lucy was rewinding the glass eye and all those little flashes going up. I'm like, this is a perfect opportunity for a reference to something.
And there is a reference.
There is. Is that where the reference is?
Yes, that's the only Easter egg. And it is, do you remember the episode of Futurama where Fry and Professor and Bender get in a time machine?
Oh, and they get stuck in the time loop and they have to go to the first.
Watch that scene again, and there's like a blop that shows up.
I saw.
You pause it,
one of them
you'll see Fry, Professor, and Bender.
Okay.
Yeah.
When that was rewinding, my brain instantly went like, I should pause and look at this. But I was on my phone at work, so I was like, I'm not going to do that. That's too much of a pain to.
Yeah, there's every season I think has a Futurama Easter egg, if I'm correct.
Which is fine. Which is
great. I like those.
There was a lot of pop culture references. Like like just now on the screen was the sword chair. No, the sword chair, which is obviously supposed to be a reference to Game of Thrones.
Yeah. Also the spinners on like on the barrier.
Well, that's just an overall like reference of like spinners on cars. But the stuff like that is a consistent thing. The one thing I will point out is how each of the characters, I was going to say this earlier, but each of the characters is a amalgamation of different characters from Matt Groening's world.
Yes.
Like personally, I think Lucy is straight up Bender with like I don't know, like some other character on it, because he has the whole like, I'm going to do whatever I want and not really care, and then like, oh, I have to help people, oh, this sucks. And
I think she's a cross between Bender and Fry, actually. Lucy? I feel like that's
Bean, what I was talking about Lucy.
Oh, Lucy's totally Bender.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's full on. Like when I was watching, I'm like, this is supposed to be the Bender thing. He's smoking, drinking, doing bad things, getting people to do bad things.
If you had 3 wishes, what would you do?
I think Elfo is the Fry of the show. Because like Fry was the dolt, like not really paying attention, not really knowing, also being like super awkward to the point where he can't do nothing. And that's what Elfo is, like, to the point where he's like bumbling over his words, trying to say like, I like you, Bean, and he can't do it, and Lucy has to kind of like force it out of him at certain points. I definitely think that Bean is like a Leela of it, just like her competence and able to do everything, but she's definitely not the smart.
I think she's like a mix between Bender and Leela in a way. Like, she doesn't really care what people think about her, and she does everything she wants to do as long as, like, you know, she's not forced being
you know
in
who
it.
she is. You know who she is. She's Leela and Amy mixed.
Probably.
Because Amy has like the whole like overbearing parents who like get her to do everything, and so she lashes out to it. And then Leela's side of her is what makes her confident enough to handle things. But she's also the Leela incompetent of being unable to do anything other than being a captain. Because like there are multiple episodes where she can't do anything. And then she has like she's not stupid. She's I mean, there are times where you kind of question that. But for the most part, she is functional and smart enough to like handle everything, just like Amy is kind of stupid and functional enough to handle things. So I don't know. That was just something that like I personally felt. And then there's other characters that are just like, okay, this is the Homer of the series. Yeah. This is the every time I hear King Zod, I think of the Worm episode of Futurama, of the one guy who's just like, ooh, like let me oogle the lady, like, you know what I'm talking about. Whenever
oh yeah, it's my favorite episode. It's like, the Worms episode.
Yeah, he's like yelling out to Leela, like he's all just like, ooh, watch me do my moves on her.
Ooh.
That's why.
Well, it's Joe DiMaggio. It's Joe DiMaggio.
That's why I'm like, okay, I hear his voice, and I want to say that's Joe DiMaggio, but I'm thinking of that character, and I'm not sure if he plays that character or someone else. He does. There are times in specifically like Futurama and like Adventure Time and other animation type shows where I will hear someone be like, I think that's Joe DiMaggio, and then it's not him, and then I feel weird. I'm like, oh man, I'm stuck. But yeah, no, I definitely.
It's interesting though how this show has taken a different fandom. Why I say that is because my wife's cousin's husband loves Disenchantment. He loves this show, but he's not a fan of Futurama or The Simpsons. Like, he's not like a big fan of those, but he loves Disenchantment. He's like, I love this show. And I was like, really? And then he starts quoting it, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, he does like this show. Especially he quotes the dungeon guy that has his eyes out.
Oh Gropey. Yeah, the Gropey.
He's like, here, I need to touch this more.
No touch, Prince. It's like, yes, no, that's 100% real, but this guy needs more growth.
Yeah, it's interesting, like watching these characters set up, and then they make like huge references to like fairy tale stories, Snow White.
Snow White with the glass coffin, which I do like it that Lucy calls it an aquarium, and I'm like, yeah, it's very much true. Hansel and Gretel, which like anytime they try to do like a switcheroo, like, oh, you thought it was that, but it's really
that
this.
Episode was great.
The best line of that whole episode that actually made me like kind of chuckle is whenever she starts laughing, he's like, oh sister, don't laugh, people get nervous when German laugh. And I was like, no,
stop it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, man. Yeah,
it does also make me laugh that it's like Bean's like, I can't kill anyone, then she accidentally murders someone, then intentionally murders the other one. And then at the end of the episode, another thing that like the little throwaway lines that I think you personally like is whenever they blow it up, do the slow walk away, and then she's like, I'm free. It's like, man, I can't wait to go back in the woods and live with my sister. She lived in the attic. And you're like, oh, she did. But then she's not. Man. She's perfectly fine. Like, they do a lot of like last second throwaways. Like, oh no, she's dead because they blew up the house. Oh, this is her and her sister. Or like the guy, the exorcist who fell into the lava pit, I think he did.
Yeah, and he shows up later.
And then he's like, I'm fine. I just lost an arm. And I'm like, a lot of that stuff. You know who I also really like too? And he was just a single character? Is the assassin who jumps them in the tomb. And then he's like, I'm only here to stop you and to answer all questions. And then after that, he like cuts it. He's just like, it's like, look what you've done. It's like, yes, but I did my job. Goodbye. See you in hell. And he just falls and fails himself. And I was like,
oh man.
Yeah, I kind of want to like if I do another D&D campaign, I want to introduce a villain that's just that. It's like, I'm here to stop you and answer all your questions. All right, I've completed my task. See you in hell. And kills himself.
Yeah, I like those one-line throwaways. I think they're great. They just give me a little chuckle. Like especially the Land Vikings episode where they're like, put down the drawbridge, and then they see like an empty like, you know, drawbridge, and they're like, take down the painting of the drawbridge, and they take down the painting. And the line that is said by one of the little people made me laugh. So he's like, is this Castle One Drive? I don't know why I laughed, but I was like, oh my gosh, it's good. The one-liners in the show is what makes this show for me. Like, I like those little one-liners. And I do like the overarching like jokes that they have. I think, you know, I think the story between Elfo and his whole like going back to like the mythical land, like of what was it? I forget what they call the elf land. It's not Dreamland. It's it's like Elf Town or whatever it is. I like that whole storyline, and I like how he was like his girlfriend, and he's like, oh, it's a child. He's like, no, that's my boyfriend. Mm-hmm. He's like, oh, it's like, you moved on. He's like, yeah, you were exiled. What did you expect?
What did you expect from me? Yeah. It's okay. He's okay if we fall.
Yeah. There is one gripe I do have. There is a scene in the show that we've talked about this when we were talking about Junji Ito, and that was 3D animation. Sometimes in a show can look really bad, and there's a part in the show that made me go, oh, I hate that shot. And it's at the end. It's actually the last scene of the season, where they like pan the castle a little bit, and then it shows Zog. That 3D motion was, I just don't think it was really done really well. I'm not a fan of like the 3D motion animation like that sometimes, because it can be kind of like choppy and it just seems weird. That's the only gripe I really had. I think everyone plays a great character. I enjoy it a second time through. This is actually my third or fourth time through with season 1. Yeah, because like it's one of those shows that like like I love Futurama. I put it as background a lot, but Disenchantment is one of those shows I'll put in the background a lot. And once it gets more episodes, because they kind of confirm that they're going to do another season, like season 5, I think. They kind of confirmed that like a couple months ago. One of the writers and creators kind of like did a little Twitter post, but it didn't confirm it. It just said, hey, be on the lookout. And I'm like, oh, a trailer is probably going to come out soon, which hopefully that happens, because I think that the show should go for 10 seasons like most of everything Matt Groening does. It goes for at least 10 seasons, or it goes for like 6 and then it gets canceled and then it gets shuffled somewhere else and someone makes some more, because like we're getting Futurama again, here in, I think this year or next year. I forget what it is. Sometime. Yeah.
That's good for them. The one thing I will say, this is like one of the things that you mentioned a lot of foreshadowing, and this show did a lot.
Yeah.
Because like the whole thing about like what is B. It's the cliche D&D group like story write-ups, where it's just like, I'm an elf. He's not really an elf. He's half something else. Oh, his other half is, it's a mystery. You won't know. And then it's just like she has some dark internal power, and then like her mom grabs an infernal and like infuser, and then it's like, oh, is she like part infernal or something like that? Like it's all that stuff, And then the one that I liked, I actually liked that they did, because it was brought up and then never brought up again, and I was like, good, solid, great. And that's when Elvo gets shot in the back. Lucy's just like, who shot that? And then he looks back and no one has like an arrow drawn or anything, or it looks like they just shot it. So it's like the mindset of someone else shooting him is embedded in your head. I'm like, that's going to come up later. That's going to be a part about Elfo being like resurrected or something coming up. Because at the end of the season, the last shot is Elfo. I almost said Elmo. That's where his home is. Elfo being grabbed by like 2 women on the ocean, or off the ocean. So it's like, hey, they're going to nurse him back to health, I guess, or resurrect him, which good for him. I very much would like to see Elfo become like actual like I can handle myself to a degree, because as he is now, he's semi annoying with his like dependency.
I agree.
He's literally just like, yeah, I'm like the baby brother. And it's the same thing I had the issue with like Fry early on in Futurama. Like I could never see him getting with Leela or being near Leela, because he was so incompetent to the point of like failing at everything. And it's fine to have him fail constantly, but he needs to be able to like do stuff in some form of way. Yeah. Like Fry in the beginning was basically useless, but then like Fry at the end was still pretty much useless, but he was still able to do the basic stuff that was being asked of him.
Yeah.
And he was functional. And I was like, boom, perfect. That's what Elfo needs.
I think Elfo becomes a better character. Like, I think you'll see that.
I assume next season is going to be either all about Bean. Actually, you know what? You know what's going to be? They're going to split it. And they're going to reconvene. Because right now, Bean is going with her mom on that ship of, like, monsters. I assume they're demon. I'm 100% in the mindset and belief that she's, like, half demon. My brain instantly goes to, like, D&D classes in this show, especially since you said that it is D&D campaign, and I assume that she was like a warlock or a sorcerer or something like that. And most likely we're going to find out that her original family is the one who's killed off all these snake people. Because like that was the whole thing. Like they all mysteriously got stoned, not in the way that is legal in some parts of the United States. And then like when she leaves, everyone in the castle is stoned again. So it's like, obviously they have the same power. Like she has the same power as the people who did this to them. So I assume that's what that's going to do. And then I assume that Elfo, what I think will probably be the case is that Elfo is like half angel or Cupid or something dumb or weird like that, because Lucy is the demon, and then Elfo is supposed to be like essentially like the conscience side of her. It seems.
Can I give you like a very cryptic hint? And it's really hard.
Do you think I will phase through it? Okay, go ahead.
No, because what if I told you that you have seen one of Elfo's relatives already?
We've seen multiple of Elfo's relatives.
A close relative.
Yeah.
Let's say his brother. You have actually seen his brother.
Yeah. I know. You can tell who's related to Elfo based upon his style of like clothing, not clothing, his hair. Because that's the one thing about like Elfo and his like setup, right? Him and his dad have the same exact hair and they have the same facial structure. And so I'm like, okay. The fact that they try to end it with this idea that it's like, ooh, we don't know who this is or whatnot. So I'm like, they obviously hid something somewhere, and that's going to be a thing. Two biggest concepts for where it's probably hidden, right, is either someone else in the village of the elves, which I assume not because his dad's there, and I actually think it's probably one of the child of Tibia or whatever her name is.
Okay.
The one the maid where you see a bunch of the little kids everywhere.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, one of those. I mean, it's probably one of those characters, because if Elfo's mom turns out to be like a tall person or like a human or something like that, it's going to offer a bunch of weird questions that have to be answered. And it's like Final Fantasy 14, man. Like, people can play Lalafels. You don't want to ask questions about that end. You know, like that's a little like, let's not go into that. Like, and so I would assume they would try to avoid that.
I think it's season 2 or season 3 where they do actually explore Elfo's like his whole family,
his lineage or whatnot.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, and it is one of the best storylines of Disenchantment, I think. I laughed, and actually we get to see the pace changes in this season. Like I will say that we will start seeing things that like we'll get more. Like season 1 was just Dreamland pretty much, and then like Elfo's world. We're actually getting an expand universe. Like it starts opening up in season 2 where they start, going to places like stuff that like, interacts like differently. I think bigger and better like terrains. It kind of becomes a campaign itself. And like, that's why I feel like season 1 is really stuck in that, because it's just pretty much in Dreamland. You don't really see anything outside Dreamland. Like they go to the volcano. What was it?
See, my issue with the show is not even where they're at. My issue is the episodic base, where it's like this, and that, and all that stuff. Because they do travel a lot in this show. Like they do. They have the whole episode where they go to Dankville or Dank Kingdom or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
They go to the sand area. They go to the volcano. They go around a lot. There's a lot of traveling in the show. The issue I have more is just like what they're doing, like what their task is, and how each time it kind of feels like there isn't really a task, and it just kind of fumbles along until it's like, and episode done.
Yeah.
It's funny, like there's funny, good episodes in it, but it's also one of those situations that,
now,
we'll see.
I actually have a question that I have to look up though.
Well, that's a weird thing to do.
Well, it's because of I want to know if the same character played this same character, because it will be funny then. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm looking right now. Because it'd be funny if it's the same person.
There was a handful of characters that like I hear their voice now. I know that voice. I know it. But I don't know who it. I had that a lot in this series. It's not terrible, it's not over the top, but it's definitely one that did come up in my but yeah, I don't know. Like I liked the show. I thought the show was good. I thought it was solid. I liked it a lot more than what I did whenever I first watched it, for sure.
Dang, I thought it was going to be the same character. That sucks.
Really?
It would have been great. I think it would have been great, and you'll see, because season 2 brings this new character in. There's actually a lot of new characters that actually stay for a while, and I really like the story. Like, what's weird is like, in reality, I'm not a fan of Bean. I'm not a fan of Bean like throughout the series. I like the other characters because they have interesting stories, and Bean does have some interesting story. It's pretty much about Bean, but I think that the other characters, I like their story more, and maybe Bean's like, this next season or something, Bean will be better. I don't know. But I think that this season is the only season where I was like, I don't really want to watch it so much. I've watched season 2 probably like 5 times, 5 times, and 4. I've only watched twice because it's the newest season, so I haven't been able to rewatch it because, we do bros and shows, and I have to watch things that I've never watched, so I can't rewatch things.
That's the thing I always like point out to people, that whenever it's a show that I say to watch, it's not as much as me rewatching the show as it is like having it in the background and being like mindful of it, unless it's a show that I know through and through and could easily talk about it for hours, like Gravity Falls. When we did that, I didn't watch a single episode of that because all that stuff has been in my head for the last 5 months, and I'm able to recount each of those episodes no problem. And so during that time, I'm like, I'm just going to catch up on other things I want to watch or things I want to do. And during that time, I think I watched the Junji Ito, which is why I wanted you to watch it at that point. So I know exactly what you're saying. And whenever it's not your week, or specifically in the last, I'd say 4 months, where we're doing episodes, not so much of, hey, I'm letting you watch it or you're making me watch it, but more of like, hey, this new show came out, let's watch it together and just talk about it because it's new. That is whenever it can get like stressful, because it's like we gotta watch a new season after new season after new.
And it gets a little stagnant because you're really not trying to like, hey, let's watch this together. It's more of like, and like what I like about Bros and Shows, and like why we started this podcast, is because there is shows that I love that I wish you could experience, but like you just, sometimes you don't take the time for it. But now you're on a time crunch. Like, it's like you have to watch this to do the podcast.
There's much more of a like, hey, this is something you guys agreed to. It's part of your time, part of his time. And if you choose not to do it, you're letting him down, as well as you're letting down, let's be honest here, Mama Burkhart, who's watching us right now.
Yeah, that's true.
It's kind of one of those things. So it's like, okay, let's do it. And it's a motivator. Like, it's a good thing. And I do end up talking about it more. I will say, since doing the show with you, I feel like I've watched a lot more shows and more cultured on the TV side of stuff. And I can hold that, where before it was just video games for me. Now it's very much that.
And I got to experience, I've been watching TV shows for the last 10-15 years now. Like, you were really not, you were video games. I did like more movies and TV shows.
I did TV shows, but I did the stuff that I watch, like Steven Universe, Adventure Time, Gravity Falls. It was those shows. Those were all I watched. I did not care about anything outside of that. Never watched live action stuff. I was not a live action person. The only live action show I watched up to that point, until I finally took your recommendation on Game of Thrones, was Being Human, which is a show that I can never find anymore. Like, I don't think it's even a show that's airing anymore. Or not airing, but like you can't find it streaming, or if you do, it's all chopped up.
I actually think I actually have one season of that on DVD.
That's possible. I like the actors. That's my biggest thing about it. But yeah, awesome. Sorry, jump back on to Disenchantment. Disenchantment, pretty good, solid show. I enjoy it. Show. We're going to watch season 2 now, coming up. I hope it's a little more episodic, or at least feels to that degree. It was a lot better me watching it this time. It still is a season-based show where you have to watch every episode back to back, but I enjoyed it a lot more. So the second rewatch I think did better. And we'll see about the second episode. Second season, I mean. Second season. Austin, do you have anything you would like to say?
No, I just want to thank everyone for listening to the podcast, and hopefully we get more people to, have fun and be part of the chat and stuff. I'm always excited to do this show. That's one of the things I look forward to through the week, because I'm like, hey, I get really excited because I'll start watching these shows, and then I'll be like, oh, I wonder if Josiah laughed at that part. So that's why I'm like, oh, that's funny. If
I did more research where when I'm watching it, I'm writing down things.
Yeah.
It would be more detailed like that, but that's not the intention. The intention of the show is not for us to sit here and just be like, this part, did you like that? But oh yeah, I love that part. But more of just us talking about our thoughts and feelings about the show.
Yeah.
And if I wrote down notes, I would be very much trying to share the note. All right. Yeah. Here's the thing. Kind of like what I did with Wilfred. I'll be honest. I kind of did that with Wilfred. I didn't write down the notes, but I was sitting there doing the whole crazy pin board thing, being like, all these are possible. Freaking A, none of it matters. So it's a good old time. So Austin, thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Bros and Shows. I appreciate that, mate. And thank you all so much for stopping by, and hopefully I'll see you guys next time when we watch Disenchantment season 2. Disenchantment, not Disenchanted. I was writing Disenchanted everywhere, and it's Disenchantment season 2. So again, thank you all so much for stopping by, and thank you all so much for tuning in.